Hi, I'm Stephanie with Imbue, and thanks so much for tuning in today. Today, we're going to talk about the importance of seeing yourself as someone new in every new moment in any new experience. And I'll tell you a story to start out. Recently, I was in a yoga class at this yoga studio that I'm repping here in this video, Heart Yoga in Uptown. They're amazing. And I was instructed at the end of the class to move into a wide-legged seated forward fold. And I know, based on how I've always performed trying to stretch in any capacity, that I'm terrible at it and that I'm incredibly inflexible. And I attribute that to wearing a back brace for 3 years growing up, doing lots of weightlifting and never stretching afterwards, which I know is dumb and I shouldn't do, and just not having a regular stretching practice. And so I already had this story in my head that I'm not flexible and I'm unable to do a successful seated forward fold. So I arranged my legs into the wide-legged V position of a forward fold and started to hinge forward. And as you would expect, I experienced resistance almost right away. And my hamstrings were screaming at me, and my head was saying, "Yep, see, you can't do a forward fold." I caught myself glancing around the room and noticing all of the yogis around me who were resting their foreheads on the floor, which just made me angry because I've never been able to do something like that in my life. And they looked so relaxed, and I was sitting there struggling. And I noticed that I had this pretty intense story going on in my head, and that story is that I'm not flexible. And it's based on the fact that I never have been flexible before. So in my hot yoga-induced days, I decided to try flipping my script. And I got really curious about how much of my limitations with stretching were just from my mental state and the story that I've been telling myself rather than from the actual incapability of being flexible. And so I started to say to myself, I allow myself to be flexible. And it started out as a question, can I allow myself to be flexible? And then it turned into, I allow myself to be flexible. And I noticed that in the allowing, parts of me stopped resisting the stretch. So my hamstrings started to loosen up and I was able to start inching my way forward. And at this point, I got really excited. And I do a lot of work with clients around mindset. So I started doing some visualization. And I visualized myself as if I were floating around at the roof of the studio, looking down on myself, and visualized my forehead moving towards the floor. And even talked about it in my head as a past tense experience because that helps you create experiences if you can imagine them as something that's already happened. So I started saying, remember when I nailed that wide-legged forward fold? And I heard a part of myself say, yes, I remember. And I kind of went into the meditative space with it. And a couple minutes later, the teacher prompted us to move into the final Savasana, which is when you're laying on your back. And at that point, my forehead was only inches from the floor. And I have to say, to bring this into context, I know lots of people can do a wide-legged forward fold, but I have never gotten even close to that in my entire life. And to really realize that that was all something that I had within me and that it was really just my mindset that needed to shift is super powerful. And it's really about flipping your script and choosing your story. And I happen to have a course about that helps you to choose your story for every situation in your life. So it helps you kind of rewrite the scripts that you've been writing for yourself for your entire life so that you're living the life that you want, not the one that you've been programmed for. So I'll link the course in the notes for the video, and I will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.